I call to order the 2026 Planning Commission hearing on August 12th at 9 a.m. We're meeting in the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors chambers as well as via Zoom. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please proceed with roll call.
Commissioner Burrows, Commissioner Gupta,
Here.
Commissioner Serrano Kwan, Vice Chair Nugent,
Here.
Chair Garcia.
Here.
Thank you, Chair. You have a quorum and staff is represented by Mintier, Fox, and Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now open public comment for items on the consent agenda and items not on the agenda. This meeting is a limited public forum. All public comments must relate to something that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the agency. If a comment does not relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of the agency, we will interrupt your comment and move on to the next speaker. As presiding officer of this meeting, I will determine whether the comment does relate or does not relate to the subject matters placed within this agency's purview. Madam Clerk, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I will first call upon members in person, followed by speakers on Zoom. You will have 5 minutes. For in-person comments, the speaker slips are located in the back of the room. On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature or *9 if you are calling by phone. And we did receive written correspondence for items not on the agenda that was posted to the website and circulated to the commission. And at this time, there is nobody wishing to speak in person or on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now close public comment for items on the consent agenda and items not on the agenda. Is there a motion to set the agenda? Which at this point includes set the agenda and approve consent agenda, which includes item 1, minutes from the July 8th meeting, as well as item 2, GPC 2026-00003.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Just to be clear, just consent agenda, also the meeting agenda. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta?
Aye.
Vice Chair Nugent?
Aye.
Chair Garcia?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, moving on. We will now move on to item 3. Madam Clerk, please introduce the project and the planner.
Owner, Petrick Adam J. Trust. Applicant, San Mateo County Real Property. File number GPC 2026-00005. Location 625 and 627 Glenlock Way. APN 068-021-170 and 068-021-160. And your project planner is Katie Faulkner.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Katie Faulkner. I'm a Planner 3 with the department. So this item is a request from the County Real Property Division to determine if a vacation of a segment of right-of-way between 625 and 627 Glenlock Way conforms to the County General Plan. Right, so the right-of-way in question is shown in red on this slide. It is 10 feet wide by about 220 feet long, and it connects to Glenlock Way to the south, and to the north it connects to 2 other segments of 10-foot right-of-way and the border of Edgewood County Park. The subject right-of-way slopes downward from Glenlock Way towards the county park. Here is a survey image provided by Real Property where you can see the 10-foot right-of-way, which on this image is called an alleyway. You can also see a sanitary sewer easement to the left. The current owners of 625 Glenlock Way are dedicating a new sewer easement to the Emerald Lake Heights Sewer Maintenance District, which will provide necessary coverage for the existing sewer facilities. This image is a Google Street View showing the subject right-of-way between 625 and 627 Glenlock Way, with a fence between Glenlock Way and the right-of-way. So the most relevant general plan policy to consider for this item is policy 12.23, vacation of county streets and easements. That policy says that when reviewing vacation requests, we should consider the following. Whether access is available to existing parcels and developed areas adjacent to the subject area, or possible future development based on adopted area plans. And in this case, the proposed vacation would not impact access to existing parcels, as all adjacent parcels have access to either Glenlock Way or Sylvan Way. The second thing we consider is whether the area to be vacated is not required for public transit use based on adopted plans. And this proposed vacation would not impact public transit use, as the 10-foot right-of-way is not suitable for a roadway based on its size and steep grade, and therefore is not suitable as a route for public transit. Additionally, there are no bus routes on Glenlock Way or Sylvan Way, and the subject right-of-way is not near any other transit providers, such as Caltrain or BART. The third thing we consider is whether the area to be vacated is not suitable for non-motorized use. So this subject right-of-way could potentially, house a set of stairs or a trail, in some reality. However, a set of stairs or trail are very unlikely to ever be built here. There are no current or planned Edgewood County Park trails near the subject right-of-way, so there is limited potential for any future connections. Neither the CCAG bicycle and pedestrian plan or the unincorporated active transportation plan include any bicycle or pedestrian recommendations for the subject right-of-way, or even Glenlock Way or Sylvan Way. And the County Parks and Recreation Department and the Public Works Department didn't have any objections to this proposed right-of-way vacation. Neither of them have any plans for this right-of-way. And the Emerald Lake Hills Community Plan provides some further background on these 10-foot right-of-way that dot the Emerald Lake Hills area. And that plan says that many of the original Emerald Lake Hills subdivision maps include 10-foot wide strips of land intended for pedestrian trails traversing the area. However, in most subdivisions, they were never accepted for dedication by the county and have never been improved, marked, or maintained for that purpose. Very few of the original map trails are in use today. Most are too steep, overgrown with brush, and blocked off by fences, which is, I would say, the case with the subject right-of-way. Many others have been legally abandoned, reverting full title to adjacent property owners. However, those currently in use should be protected from new development that would prevent their use. But in this case, the subject right-of-way is not in use and unlikely to ever be improved for non-motorized use. So, as for environmental review, this is not a project under CEQA and requires no environmental review. So considering all the relevant factors discussed previously, the recommendation for this item is to find and determine that the proposed vacation of the right-of-way between 625 and 627 Glenlock Way, as shown on the map in attachment B, conforms to General Plan Policy 12.23 and is consistent with all other policies of the County General Plan. And that is the end of my presentation. I am available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Just a comment. I looked at the right-of-way area and just want to confirm that it's extremely steep. So I don't see any way that could be utilized. Stairs, probably be more a ladder than a stair, probably, but really steep. So I don't see any issues.
Well, I have a question. I'm curious what spurred this decision to do. I mean, it seems like there's multiple um, such right of ways in the neighborhood and perhaps elsewhere in the county. And I'm curious why this one is being vacated.
Yes, so many of them have already been vacated if you look through kind of our property history maps. And for this one, the sanitary sewer easement is what's kind of spurring this action at the moment. But any property owner can apply to have, a right of way such as this vacated. So I think the need for the sanitary sewer easement kind of prompted people to look at the potential to vacate this right of way. And so that's why it's before you right now.
So is the sanitary sewer? Can we bring up the image where
Yes.
it shows the easement and the right of way?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is this a new easement that's being added, or is it an existing easement?
So the easement is new. The sewer facilities are not new. From what I understand, Public Works realized that the sewer facilities were not where they thought they were located, and so that they needed an easement for existing sewer facilities. And so that's what's kind of prompted all these actions. So the property owners are going to grant a sewer easement, and at the same time, they were looking at the subject right away that bisects. So the same property owners own both properties, and so this easement or the right of way, bisects their two properties. So they were looking at that, and that's what prompted this application.
Okay, so so I'm clear, based on this survey, lot 14 and lot 13 are owned by the same
That's my understanding.
owner.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Some of the questions are already answered. So, how is it used right now? Like, do people walk through it?
No, because there's a fence right now between.
Like blocking
Yeah.
the entrance to it?
Yeah, there we go. So yeah, this is an image of the area that the right of way exists in right now, and so yeah, there's a fence blocking access from the road to the right of way.
Okay. So what does it mean when we say we are vacating or abandoning the easement? What does it mean?
It means that the county is giving up their rights to use this right of way. From what I understand, and council can potentially explain better if needed, it doesn't vacate the rights of the other people in the subdivision to use the property, but it vacates the right for the county to come in and improve the property or do anything with it.
Okay. And you said because both the lots are owned by the same owner, and so is this this piece that county is basically vacating.
It will revert.
The easement. Yeah.
Yeah, it will revert to their ownership.
Okay, so county is not going to have any rights to do anything on that 10-foot wide.
No, but we have no plans, and we haven't had any plans in the last 100 years since the subdivision was created.
So going back to you, what does it mean that when we say that?
When an owner files a subdivision map, they have the option at that time to specify how everybody is going to get access to the parcels that they're creating. And they also have the option at that time to decide whether or not they would like to offer the streets to public use. It's called an offer of dedication. And then the Board of Supervisors, when it approves the subdivision map, makes a discretionary decision about whether or not that would be a good thing or a bad thing. And there are occasions where a developer has chosen not to offer the streets to public use. They wanted to keep them private roads. There have been occasions where the offer has been made and the Board of Supervisors has decided to reject the offer because they didn't see that there'd be a benefit to having public access to a particular road. And then there's a process, as you're seeing here today, for cases where the Board of Supervisors made the decision when the subdivision map was approved to accept the offer of dedication, but then later changed its mind and vacated the offer of dedication.
Okay.
So we talk typically about street vacations. It's a rather misleading term. It sounds something like a neighborhood festival or something. But a street vacation is where the Board of Supervisors makes the decision to say, we changed our mind about this thing that we did 100 years ago, 75 years ago, 50 years ago, and we are abandoning the public's right to access this land that on paper was accepted when we approved the subdivision. So a slight clarification to what was just said in the presentation. The county doesn't technically hold any land rights to this right-of-way. It accepted them on behalf of the public.
Okay.
So the Board of Supervisors, in its capacity as sort of trustees for the public's right to travel, accepted a pedestrian pathway when the subdivision map was recorded, and then it hasn't been used in about 100 years. And the decision is proposed that the board vacate and abandon on behalf of the public the right to use that strip of land. That's a decision that will be made by the Board of Supervisors later. The question that's presented to the Planning Commission is doing so consistent with the general plan? So you're actually not really deciding whether or not to vacate the street or the right-of-way. You're making the decision of whether or not doing so is consistent or inconsistent with any provision of the general plan. And that's the role that the Planning Commission plays in that process. Yeah, I think I've covered essentially what the question was.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fox. Thank you, Katie. No more questions.
I have a couple of questions. One, because this strip is between two properties, even though the two properties are owned the same owner, I presume that land is going to revert in some fraction to one property or the other. Is there discretion as to which lot that gets reattached to?
So I believe it would be in a different circumstance, it would be split between the two. But from what I understand from looking at past history, I believe these lots might already be merged just by looking at our historical maps. That's something that would need more research, frankly, to confirm, but that's my understanding of it. So yeah, I hope that helps to answer.
And the other point, it's been acknowledged that this and other these are public right of ways, so presumably without, the public could in theory go and access them. As noted, there's a fence there, which sort of limits both the public access and even like recognition that there is a public right of way at all. Is there any issue with, okay, well, can you build a fence basically wherever and cut off what would otherwise be a potential public right of way? Obviously, if there is a fence there, there's no one going to be using it, and as a result, it will, its unused state will be recognized. Is there any sort of inconsistency there, or?
So often, if you build something in the public right of way, you need some sort of permission or permit from DPW. I don't know the history of this fence and if they have that permission from DPW. I will say, this is a very steep right of way. So I think that
I'm asking more generally. I mean, you acknowledge that there are several of these throughout Emerald Hills. I don't mean necessarily for this one specifically, just in general. Is this something that can be done, or?
I think if we had, say, an open 10-foot right of way and it was flat and it was cleared and people were using it, our answers to these questions would be different. I think potentially then you might be able to find that this was suitable for non-motorized use in that kind of different scenario. I think the number of different factors, it being so steep, overgrown with brush, the fact that many other of these right-of-ways have been vacated in the past already, the fact that there is a fence and therefore nobody's currently using it. You're right. I think all that adds up to, this is not suitable in its current state for non-motorized use per our policy.
I think,
May I answer the question in a slightly different way?
yes.
If an owner were to apply for a permit and that permit were reviewed by the department, the answer might turn out differently than, can a person build a fence on their property if it doesn't require a permit? So in other words, the department would analyze whether or not it impedes a public travel way if they were asked the question, shall we issue a permit to build this fence?
I see.
But I think there are a number of fences in place throughout the county. They generally tend to be noticed more quickly when they're on the coast side.
I see.
And there are probably many such pedestrian travelways in our subdivisions in the unincorporated area on the bay side, where we rely upon members of the public to tell us when someone is putting up a fence that is impeding a path of travel that's in use.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to add, like, often for new construction, they will be required to improve some portion of the right of way on the owner of the property adjacent to the right of way's expense. And so, it's not unheard of for private property owners to improve or put in some sort of construction money to do something in the right of way where it's not like, even though it's not owned particularly by that property owner. And yeah, so maybe, it could have been that they might have gotten a permit. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
That point doesn't seem to be before us at the moment. But I was looking for clarification for other situations where the public right of ways, there is an application process that is necessary in order to impede access to the public right of way. That was,
I'm sure there is.
that's all I wanted to confirm. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. I don't know if there's an applicant to speak at this.
The applicants are online, but at
Oh.
this time, they have not accepted requests to promote to panelists, so I don't think they wish to speak today.
Okay. All right. I guess if that we can open public comment for this. Are there?
Thank you, Chair. At this time, we have no public comment for item number 3.
All right, moving on. Committee discussion or willingness to take a motion.
Well, I'll say it. This seems to be in compliance with our general plan. It's an unused right of way, and it doesn't seem to be particularly usable in the future. And it does seem fair to me to, like, if we're putting in an easement for a sewer system that's going to be used by many people, many residents of the county in that area, that this unused right of way being given back to the property owner seems fair, and to me, in compliance with the general plan.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move that Planning Commission find and determine that the proposed vacation of the right-of-way between 625 and 627 Glenlock Way, APN 068-021-170 and 068-021-160, as shown on the map in attachment B, conforms to General Plan Policy 12.23 and is consistent with all other policies of the County General Plan.
I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Burrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nugent,
Aye.
Chair Garcia.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 4. Madam Clerk, please introduce the project and the planner.
Owner Art Tafoya and Rami Triggs Smith. Applicant Edward C. Love. File number PLN 2024-00131. Location 845 San Ramon Avenue, Moss Beach. APN 037-259-2000. And your project planner is Dylan Parker.
All right, thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. Dylan Parker, Planner 3 with the Planning and Building Department. So item number 4 is a consideration of a coastal development and design review permits to allow construction of a new 2,726 square foot, 2-story, single-family residence with attached 2-car garage on a 5,147 square foot vacant parcel in the unincorporated Moss Beach area of San Mateo County. The project proposes minor grading, no tree removal, and is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. The subject property is located northeast of the San Ramon Avenue and La Grande Avenue intersection in Moss Beach. It has a moderately sloped terrain, has ocean views primarily along its southerly and westerly property lines, and is surrounded by developed parcels with 1- and 2-story single-family homes of varying architectural styles. It is located within the county's R1 S17 single-family residential zoning district. The property is subject to design review and is in the County Geohazard Zone 3, which is considered the least hazardous and allows for development if properly designed by a geotechnical consultant. Parcel legality was established for this subject property through a certificate of compliance, a type B, under a previously approved development application, planning 2017-00539, and the certificate was recorded on April the 2nd of 2026. So this slide shows a rendering of the proposed project from a street-facing vantage point. And then this is the site plan. And on the left-hand side is a bird's eye view of the proposed site with both garage and front door facing San Ramon Avenue. And then on the right side has a 360-degree view with the green picture at the bottom left-hand corner showing a project's vantage point from La Grande Avenue. And then the blue picture in the top rightmost corner showing the project's vantage point looking into the site from San Ramon Avenue. So on this slide, we have the floor plans moving left to right. The left side is the 2nd-story plan with the living room, dining room, kitchen, and primary bedroom suite. On the right is the 1st-story floor plan with the 2-car attached garage with storage, office, and the remaining 2 bedrooms and a shared bath. So these are the proposed south and north elevations. This red line, so on the left-hand side is the south elevation, and then the right-hand side is the north. And the red line just indicates the 28-foot maximum height allowed within the zoning district. And then these are the east and west elevations. To the left is the east, and to the right is the west. And then these are going to be the sections with the left-hand side showing the east and west, and the left showing the north and south sections. Once again, the red line indicating the 28-foot maximum height allowed within the zoning district. So now turning to the design review aspect of this project. So this slide just indicates the proposed color and materials for the new residence. And on the Coastside Design Review Committee, CDRC, considered the project at their regular April the 9th, 2026 public meeting. And public comments received during that meeting centered primarily around the proposed residence siting and its impact on ocean view corridors to adjacent properties. In making their recommendations of approval to the Planning Commission, the CDRC made the finding that quote, the project has made a good effort to mitigate view disturbance throughout the neighborhood in contemplation of these comments. And they also made the additional findings as indicated on this slide and detailed in staff's report. So now turning back to the project's conformance to applicable county regulations. So staff would like to note that the project complies with the county's general plan, local coastal plan, county design review, and geologic hazard standards. Additionally, the project complies with the Half Moon Bay Airport land use compatibility plan and also the R1 S17 development standards as are detailed in the right-hand table on this slide. And so as part of staff's overall recommendation of approval, staff is requesting that the Planning Commission determine that the project qualifies for a Class 3 categorical exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, since this class allows for the construction of one single-family residence in a residential zone. Staff also notes that the site's location in the county's Zone 3 geologic hazard zone does not exclude this project from the CEQA exemption. So in conclusion, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the coastal development and design review permits for the county file number PLN 2024-00131 based on and subject to the required findings and conditions of approval detailed in attachment A of staff's report. And this concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
Yes. I don't, I see it on your presentation. I don't know why the construction plans weren't part of would have been nice to see that prior to the presentation. But in any case, first of all, I see regarding the bird strike ordinance, it appears to me that the window size exceeds the 40% area to the facade. So are we applying the bird strike ordinance to these windows?
I believe that would be something that would have been contemplated and determined at the design review committee meeting. That is something that staff can revisit and determine. That could be as a condition of approval. If the size of the glazing or the fenestration needs to be modified to comply with that bird strike ordinance, we can apply that. And the Planning Commission could also modify the conditions of approval to include that. So we could add that as a condition if necessary.
Through the chair, if I may, the bird strike bird-friendly design standards were part of the design review ordinance that was recently adopted by the Board of Supervisors. However, for the coastal zone, it still needs to be submitted to the Coastal Commission for certification. So it is not yet in effect.
Oh, okay. Would it apply to this if it is to this proposal?
It would not apply to this proposal because it has not yet been certified. So until it's certified, it's not active in the coastal zone.
And then just, due to all the geotechnical issues in the area, I know that it says there was a consultant, they had their own consultant do a analysis.
That is correct. And through the chair to add some context to that, the project predates the Seal Cove geotechnical incident. And so the project team did take into consideration the overall county's investigative report in their design with respect to the county geologist's determination that the project could be, excuse me, recommended for approval, subject to conditions 83 and 84, and further review and determinations at the building construction stage. So they did take that into consideration during the investigative, geotechnical investigations for this project. Does that answer the question in respect to the Seal Cove overall geotechnical concerns?
Yeah, I just wanted to put it on the record that that was the case.
Understood. Thank you.
And then I had this question before, actually, we did receive some correspondence, but you made a point of saying that there were view mitigations made. So it's based on what I've seen of the mock-ups of the houses in the area. It's not immediately obvious what was done there regarding view mitigations.
If I may, I could defer to the project team. They did provide at the last moment a view analysis slide, so I could, through the chair, if I could have the project team move up to the.
We're going to have a moment for the applicant in a
Okay,
bit, so
yeah.
we'll
So
wait for
the
that.
view analysis, so 2 points to make. During the CDRC meeting, the comments related to view obstructions were contemplated by the committee. In terms of story poles, a comment was also made related to that. The staff indicated to the applicant's team that obviously there is a choice between demonstration of scale or story poles. The applicant's team decided to choose the demonstration of scale and the view analysis that I'm hoping that they will elaborate on. But in terms of the site,
Excuse me, could you please speak in the mic? I cannot hear you.
sorry, can you hear me now?
Thank you.
All right, perfect.
Yes, that's better.
What information did you not hear so I can repeat myself? Okay. So in terms of the county's demonstration of scale policy, there's 2 options that an applicant can choose, either story poles or renderings on site. My understanding is during the meeting that there were public comments related to installing story poles to better identify spatially and visually what view obstructions or view corridor analysis could happen on site. The applicant's team decided to move forward with their demonstration of scale on site, the renderings as provided in the staff's report. However, my understanding and through the findings that the CDRC had made, that they felt satisfied that the obstructions of views to adjacent neighbors had been mitigated as best possible, given the site constraints, and therefore recommended approval to the Planning Commission based on that particular finding. Did that answer the question sufficiently, or I'm happy to elaborate?
What specifically was done, I guess, is what my question is.
I think the
And we'll get to that.
we'll get to that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
The story pole issue has come up time and again. So I'm still not clear. Is that something that has been accepted as a standard that they should be putting story poles in those areas or not?
If I may ask a clarifying question through the chair.
Yeah.
Is the question whether or not the county has determined that story poles are preferred over renderings as a demonstration of scale per the policy?
Yeah.
My understanding.
Yeah, perhaps what is code? What is required at the moment?
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. So the policy states that there are 2 options at the discretion of the applicant. So assigned staff, CDRC sometimes will recommend, strongly encourage story poles in situations like that, but it is ultimately at this applicant's discretion how they want to sufficiently demonstrate and comply with that policy. And so in this instance, the applicant felt comfortable and confident that the renderings on site demonstrated sufficiently that the project view analysis and other items that are normally considered in the renderings satisfied that policy. But county staff is limited by this policy and what they can require.
Yeah.
It is more of a strong encouragement.
May I note that the story pole policy was also clarified in the design review ordinance update. So once that takes effect, once the Coastal Commission certifies that, then a project of this size would be required to demonstrate scale using story poles, but not currently.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
For my clarification, so you say renderings on site. Are these renderings of the site, or are these renderings that are physically displayed on the project site? I'm unclear what that means.
Sure. It's a project board, if you're familiar. So it's a large board that shows renderings. And I'll defer to the applicant's team to kind of go into more what the process is of creating it. But essentially what it is, and if I may go to the site plan slide, if I could, on the renderings on site, it does provide, let's see, I believe it's slide 4. So the 360 view that's here, that was pulled from the on-site rendering board. So what the rendering board essentially tries to do is mimic views, mass and articulation from various angles. Excuse me. So the 360 view plus the 2 pictures that are kind of at the bottom right, bottom left and top right, those are all pulled from the rendering poster, if you will. But that is posted on site to give people an idea of what that mass and articulation is proposed to be in absence of story poles.
This also brings up a question I have. So recently, it was basically vacant portion of the property adjacent to this project's property seems to have been redeveloped. Is that an ADU that was developed next door?
That's my understanding.
Okay,
yes.
not a full size single family home. It was an ADU that's part of the 836 Legrand Avenue.
Yes, that is my understanding. Yes, the front unit that is associated with I believe it's 836 Legrand Avenue, that would be considered a new ADU, detached ADU on that portion of their parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
That structure is built. I mean, if I haven't yet to be
That is
Go to-
correct.
okay.
It is a built structure. Yes.
it also didn't show up on the previous couple slides. If you go back a couple slides, keep going. Yeah, it's not there yet. Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you. If there are no other questions, we could move on to the. Okay. We could introduce the applicant if the applicant would wish to speak.
Thank you. And Mr. Love, you will have 15 minutes.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. My name is Ed Love. I am the principal for Edward C. Love and Associates. We are the architects and the applicants for the project. To give you a little history, the DeFolas hired another designer originally to design their home for them. And then they decided to bring it to us to look at it and see if there were any improvements that could be made, and process it through all the way through to the building permit. So we looked at it and we did make some changes to the house from the original design. Originally, there was a retaining wall on 3 sides of the lot, and a lot of dirt was excavated in order to make the lot flat, which would have meant lots of dump trucks going through the neighborhood and lots of dirt to be taken to a dump. We thought it would be better to push the house up a little bit and not do that and have small retaining walls in the back rather than on all 3 sides, the 2 sides in the rear of the project. So we did that, and now we have very minimal excavation, which we think is an improvement for both the house and save some money for the owner. Also, at the time, the original design had a lot of glass on the left side of the house because that's part of the views from that area. In the meantime, the property on the left, which goes through all the way through to San Ramon from the street at the rear, they built a garage with an ADU on top of it, which sort of changed the angle of views from the Tafola's house. So we cut down on the amount of glass on the left side quite a bit, because basically the second story ADU blocked views from the living areas of the new house, of the Tafola's house. Now, what you see here in the pink color, those are the views from the house to the right that are available. And we moved the house back as far as we could, the Tafola's house, and we notched the second story at the corner to help with the view from the house at 847. And you can see they still have very good views. The houses at the rear are at a higher elevation than the Tafola's house because the general slope of the land slopes up. So it wasn't a problem with the houses at the rear. So we think that the positioning on the lot helps everybody with their views and doesn't make any major screening or blocking. To get back to the demonstration of scale, which Dylan showed earlier, we sometimes prefer that because it shows the house and how it relates to the whole neighborhood. The 3-dimensional bird's eye view shows how it sits compared to the other houses in the area. And sometimes that's preferable to story poles. Plus, they don't cost nearly as much. Story poles are running $4,000 to $5,000 for whenever that's proposed. But now I understand, as Sophie mentioned, that the story poles will be required in the future after the Coastal Commission approval. So I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions? Thank you. Any questions from committee? These view images, where were they? How were they conveyed to the public beyond this hearing?
They're posted at the front of the lot. And as a matter of fact, the planning department liked our demonstrations of scale so much, the way that we did it and presented it, that they used it for the model and sent it out to everybody and say, this is how a demonstration of scale should be. They used ours. So we were pretty happy with that.
I took a picture of that and sent it to Angela, by the way, in case you want to look at it.
Oh, the
Of the
display.
renderings that are out in front of the house,
Okay.
just in case, you want to look at it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
At this point, we can open public comment for item 4. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. We did receive written correspondence last night that was printed and circulated to the commission this morning, and we do have 2 virtual hands raised on Zoom. So I will first call on Dominic Dorn, followed by Uma Dorn, and you will have 5 minutes. Dominic, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for allowing us the time to speak today. So we do appreciate that the boards were put up in front of the property. However, the request for story poles has virtually been ignored. And last night, again, driving through our neighborhood, there is another home going in which has story poles illustrating what the view would look like. Again, I understand that they've been working on this for some time. We've been in the property now for a year. We purchased the home based off of the views that we had. We bought a home that needs complete renovations, but we were paying market pricing, and to lose that view would alter our value of our property. The request for story poles, again, just helps us illustrate and understand how much of that window we're going to lose, that view that we have of the ocean right now. The renderings out front don't do an accurate representation of the view, right? The story poles would tell a better story, which is why that they're able to be utilized. We also would ask if there is a way to set back the property even further on the second level. I mean, the home is I think my wife, who will speak next, is 51% larger than our own home, roughly. And so it is a sizable property that is going to be placed next to us on a very small lot. So I don't know if there's any additional, again, setback that could be done on that upper level to allow for our view to maintain. But that is what we would be asking, is to have story poles to get an actual representation of what we will be losing, and or can you set back that front upper level any further to keep our view intact?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I will now call on Uma Dorn.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking Dominic and my comments. And again, like Dominic shared, we are the owners of properties 847 San Ramon. We purchased the home last year, and the ocean view was one of the documented features of the purchase. We also knew that there was a property likely going to be set next to us, so did take that into consideration. So part of right now we are remodeling our kitchen, and our permit has been approved for a remodel. And our whole kitchen is designed around our ocean view from our dining space. So this isn't an abstract for us. This is our daily life, our home. And, once the structure is built, once this home is built, whatever view that we have is going to be lost permanently. So we're asking the commission to just slow down and make sure that we really consider if there are other options. And to be honest, we don't know exactly how much of our view we're going to lose. Even at the preliminary hearing, there was a disagreement between the committee and ourselves in terms of how we are understanding the rendering and how they're interpreting the rendering, based on kind of what the view is going to be and how much of that. From what we are understanding, we are going to lose most of our dining view space in terms of the view. We asked for story poles at that hearing and were denied. And again, based on how we reviewed the plans, we believe that the structure is going to block most of our view. The committee and we're looking at the same plans, reaching opposite conclusions, which is why I think it's important to have those story poles in place. The proposed structure is 50% larger than our home on a lot that is virtually the same size. It spans 90% of the lot width. and just sits 5 feet 6 inches from our shared property line. This is the legal minimum. I know there was a mention of good effort that was made, but we haven't seen that. Based on Midcoast design standards, it says that when designing a new home, an effort should be made to minimize the effect on views from neighboring houses. And I want to say the home that built the ADU, the neighbor there specifically informed us that they built the structure so that our view could be protected, which was shared in the email yesterday. So that consideration was taken into account. And that has not been done in this case. We're not here to stop anyone from building their home. We want to have a good relationship with our neighbors, and that is our intent. We're here just before a permanent decision is made that we consider how and what alternatives can be considered, and if there's a way to minimize the impact on us. And yeah, so that's kind of all we're here to ask.
Thank you. I will now call on the final speaker. That will be Art Tafola.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Also wanted to weigh in on this forum. I know we've had a similar discussion in the past with CDRC and appreciate everybody's input. And for everybody's benefit, I think I'll just remind everyone a comment I shared at the CDRC that I think has been stated here by other speakers. But when we started this process well over 5 years ago, we had an unencumbered, beautiful view of the ocean ourselves. And as Ed Love mentioned, with our initial design plans, we wanted to benefit from that view. Now, our neighbor on the other side did put up a massive ADU, which completely changed the view that we had. So I am sympathetic to what Dominic and Uma just shared, but I also have lived through it myself, and we've had to completely rearrange our design plans because there is no guarantee. And we understood that as well when we bought the lot. There is no guaranteed unencumbered view that we would benefit from. And so when our neighbor put up the ADU, we went back to the drawing board candidly, and we did it at our expense. And so wanted to remind everybody of those points if you weren't able to listen to the CDRC and some of the commentary that I shared there. Again, we have not completely eliminated anybody's view. I wish the same could have been said of what our neighbor did with their ADU on the other side, but it is something that Ed and I have worked closely on mitigating any additional neighbor view of their ocean. And so that's all I wanted to add here. I appreciate everybody's time and thank you again.
Thank you. And with that, Mr. Chair, we have no further comments.
All right. Thank you. We can now close public comment and open up committee discussion.
Just my understanding, Tim, views are not protected. Can you give the legal definition of that?
It depends on what you mean by protected.
Okay, well,
views are preserved using a combination of all of our zoning requirements in our zoning districts. So things like setbacks and maximum building height are all established with the intention of creating consistency within a neighborhood and reducing the impact that one neighbor's development has on another. Because in most cases, the understanding is if everybody follows the same rules, then everybody will be willing to live with the outcomes that are created by those rules. There is no special protection provided by our LCP for an individual project's impact on a private view. Instead, we apply the design review regulations and the LCP itself to analyze and best protect the views obtainable from public vantage points, including rights of way and other places where the public's view is impacted by development. But there is no enforceable private right to maintain a view that you had on the day that you acquired your property, short of purchasing an easement on your neighbor's property to prevent a form of development that impacts the view in a way that you wish not to see happen.
Thank you. Also in the letter, just to clarify, from from the owners of 847, they reference LCP policy 8.5A, and based on my reading of that, applies only to lots that are 20,000 square feet and above. So I'm not sure if that's a valid point. It just says 8.5 location of development, and it says on rural lands and urban parcels larger than 20,000 square feet. So
I haven't looked at the text of that. I will do so as soon as I attempt to answer your question. I will clarify if I find more, but that makes sense to me because the idea is that on larger parcels, you have more flexibility as to the siting of structures. And so the policy would be, please site your structure on your large parcel in a way that minimizes impacts to private views. On urbanized lots like those in the urban mid-coast, and we say urban, but that has a specific meaning in this context, the idea that a person should be required under the design review regulations to build a smaller structure than would otherwise be allowed by the zoning in order to preserve private views is not a position the department has adopted.
Thank you.
I would like to comment generally to both the applicant and the speakers. I can understand the frustration that as far as like, especially recently purchasing a property and seeing the next door property being developed and changing the nature of the property purchased and the views, and then also seeing this process and even having worked, been a planning commissioner for quite some time, it's very esoteric as far as like understanding as a member of the public what it is that a planning commission and the planning department has the ability to do to make a proposed construction project change. Like what powers do we have to actually force change in terms of design based on comments and desires of, say, neighbors or other members of the community? And we really need to be we're really kind of structured around just what it is that our laws and our ordinances allow, and we analyze our projects based on what our ordinances allow and what the setbacks are, what's provided, so that it's very clear to applicants what they can design within the box that the county provides. And so our discretion is fairly limited to force change on many projects when our discretion is not there to like grant a variance or something that's trying to go beyond what's allowed. And so it can feel frustrating when the planning commission is unable to force a change on an applicant, but it also is important that we provide property owners who want to improve their property with clear rules that they can follow. And so I just want to speak to both the applicant and the commenters that the planning commission really works to make sure that the laws have been followed, the ordinances have been followed, and that when there is discretion, we can make it, but we don't always have discretion to force change on something when somebody has followed the ordinances.
Well said, Commissioner. Um, as far as the size of the um, design goes, um, the applicant, in my mind, is not going overboard for the size of the parcel. So I don't see that they have to reduce the size, or we have any discretion on forcing that kind of the word I'm looking for is to reduce the size of their design. And I can see that the neighbor just bought their house only a year ago, and they didn't expect something big to come up and block their view of the ocean. But yes, our, our hands are tied. We can only look at the county regulations that are there, and if they are within that, we cannot say anything more than that. I like the design personally, and I have seen many designs from architect Edward Love, and they are good designs. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I would also like to echo your comments. The rules that are in place are what the guidelines that we're allowed to follow. This particular property does conform to the various standards, and they're not asking for a variance. Making sure that the policies are applied consistently through different applicants is also a big part of our job, and ensuring that effectively everyone gets a fair shake. I would even say stronger than your remark, that it's not it's not a reasonable size within my mind. It's a reasonable size within the ordinances that we have to conform to. And I don't think it's a personal perspective or anything. It's just what the numbers are. I mean, I'm a little curious about the how a whether an ADU would conform to the same guidelines. I suspect there are some somewhat different guidelines for ADU applicants, but that's not really part of the pertinent to this application right now. But that's just more of my own curiosity. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this. Open to motions.
Yes. Yeah, I move that the Planning Commission approve the coastal development permit and design review permit for county file number PLN 2024-00131 based on and subject to the required findings and conditions of approval detailed in attachment A of staff's report.
I second.
Commissioner Burrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Gupta,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nugent,
Aye.
Chair Garcia.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries with 4 in favor.
Can I go off track for just a minute here? I think it's somewhat important.
Sure.
On something that's it's not
Within reason.
Yeah, well, yeah, just a couple minutes. But in this particular proposal, the coast side fire protection district, there were like, I don't know, 3-4 pages on the conditions of approval. And based on my short time on the commission, there's been just like wildly divergent commentary from the coast side fire. I mean, it's, in some cases, I remember a few months ago, we had a proposal that was going to go into like a heavily forested area, and there was little or no comment whatsoever from the coastside fire. In this case, which I'm not a fire expert, I assume this is less fire damage, and we've got 3 or 4 pages on a condition of approval. It doesn't seem like there's any consistency in the, is there a way we can maybe standardize some of the, as to what sort of fire risk there is to each proposal, what kind of, are there fire resistant materials being used, et cetera, because it seems like it's all over the map. And I don't know if it's the planner or the whoever from the coastside fire that makes the difference, but it's just, there's no consistency whatsoever to the input.
I think that's a great question. I don't have a tidy answer for you, but it is, these are conditions from coastside fire, as you note, so it's not a matter of planning staff sort of parsing these and determining what is included in the item. But I think we can think about at the staff level ways to help contextualize for the Planning Commission how to understand how different types of projects stack up against fire risk and why that might lead to different amounts of conditions of approval.
It'd be nice. I think we're all concerned about fire risk here, so it just seems sensible that we might have a more consistent format, maybe.
Thanks. Moving on to the remaining items. Ms. Midner.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. Okay, so moving on to correspondence and other matters. We received an email expressing concern about a proposed development in the unincorporated area of Colma, and as well as the current condition of the property. So this was sent to the Planning Commission inbox and was posted on the Planning Commission hearing webpage for today's meeting. So that project will be considered by the zoning hearing officer at a future hearing date TBD. But in the meantime, the safety concerns that were raised by the correspondents have been referred to our Code Compliance Division for investigation. And then in terms of study session for next meeting, we do not have a study session scheduled for the next Planning Commission meeting, which is on August 26th. We do have one item currently on that agenda, which will involve consideration of applications for design review and coastal development permits for an addition to an existing single-family residence in Moss Beach. And then on the September 9th meeting following, there are 3 items that are scheduled. We have an appeal of a design review and CDP for a new home in Miramar, an application by Coastside County Water District for a CDP to dredge Denniston Creek Reservoir, and finally, proposed amendments to certain zoning districts to modify inclusionary housing requirements. I'll move on to noting a couple of Board of Supervisors items. So at yesterday's board meeting, the board denied an appeal and upheld the prior PC approval of a design review permit and grading permit for a home in Jefferson Avenue in Emerald Lake Hills. This was a project that was twice appealed. And so the board denied that appeal yesterday. Tomorrow, on August 13th, there's going to be a special Board of Supervisors study session at 1 p.m. concerning the vehicle license fee shortfall that you may be familiar with. And that study session is going to review the current projections for the shortfall on both the county and on the cities, and then the potential resulting impacts to our budgets, to public services, and to workforce for the county and for all the cities that are impacted by that. And then for the August 25th board meeting, The local coastal program amendment to address the mid-coast quota, which the PC heard previously, will be going forward to the board, as well as a 5-lot subdivision that's proposed on Cordilleras Road. And then I wanted to note that at today's Coastal Commission meeting in Santa Cruz, this is the reason Steve is not here today, is he's at the Coastal Commission hearing because the protected tree ordinance for the coast side is being heard at long last. So hopefully that goes smoothly. And then we have a couple other upcoming submissions to the Coastal Commission. So following board's approval of the our amendments for the mid-coast permit cap, we'll be submitting those to the Coastal Commission for certification. And then we will submit the design review ordinance, as mentioned, for the coast side to the Coastal Commission as well.
When would that be?
I don't know exactly. Hopefully in the next couple of months.
Would it go into effect upon approval if it's approved?
Yes, for the Coastal Commission, it would take effect immediately upon approval, but we don't know how long it would take from when we submit to when it's scheduled. Yeah. And then the staff circulated or is currently has a public draft available on our county website for the safety element, and we are collecting public comments through August 31st. And then for the environmental justice element, we are currently circulating an internal draft, and we'll be working on producing a public draft for publishing probably in October. And that concludes my director's report.
The commissioner reports? Questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm missing something here. Maybe I was out of the loop, but wasn't there a consideration of a request by the county real property division on Carlos Street? Did that go away, or?
Oh, yes, that was a consent item that was approved today.
It was in the consent calendar, so it didn't have a standard presentation. It was just a consent item, like the minutes.
Oh. Guess I learned something new. Okay. I had a lot of questions on that one, but
yeah, next time you can
guess I better
pull
learn
and ask questions.
If an item in the consent calendar is of interest to you, you are within your rights to request a full hearing on it.
Yeah.
But you need to actively do that. If the consent calendar is approved without modification, then it's done by consent. That's the that's where the name comes from.
Okay. So that was why Will Gibson was here, and then he left.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Thanks. I think let's adjourn now. Thank you.
Thank you.